what's your favorite ice cream?
My favorite ice cream, matcha red bean. You know the one in the fish pancake, that one, what's it called? Hi, I'm Wong, and I would say I'm a designer and an artist. We like to explore with colors in geometry. I would say that that's our strength, and it also kind of goes hand in hand with my artworks. A lot of play in bold geometry and colors, and I try to also narrate that in the spaces that we design. And we love doing things that are a bit more bold and experimental. We like to explore with different types of materials and how we could tamper with them ourselves. And just like paper, I would like to cut and tear with them, and in the same way with different other materials that we use in spaces, we like to play and push the boundaries of these. So I think they both go hand in hand, and I really like how this direction is going for us. I decided to choose acrylic to explore further in a furniture piece. And I think what drawn me to this was, I think, the variety of colors and opacity that it comes with. And usually when I visit the art shop, for example, there's this whole section of acrylic panels, and they would range from A4 to A0 size. They come in solid, translucent, even textured, up to transparent. So I think it started off when I was playing with paper, and how I do that is when I cut a few different colors and I piece them on a composition. You have a few layers, and when you start to place them one on top of another, you see the shadow cast on these different layers. So to me, why I'm drawn to acrylic is because you start to see the layering process behind each piece, because it's transparent in some way and there's so many colors. That was how I was first attracted to acrylic. When I go to art shops, there's always this section in the corner with a lot of acrylic pieces, and they come in different sizes. They have A4 up to A0 sizes, and they come in so many colors. They come in solid blocks, red, blue, yellow, up to like transparent. They also come in like textured, so some of it actually have this waveform on it. I'm always curious to think what I can do with those materials if I cut them up or lay them on top of each other or put them against light. How would it react in a space? How would it be a different form? Because when you see it as just a sheet, it's flat, but if you actually put a few things together, if it became a three-dimensional form, it's always exciting to think what could possibly become of this very standard flat piece of material. We have done a ceiling installation out of it before, and we've tried melting it with a huge thermoform machine. So there's a lot of possibilities. We used to make a lot of things by just gluing them together, and so I think right now I would like to explore what could become of it with the joint system. How could it be more refined, and putting these together to make a bigger piece of used form, I would say, like a furniture piece lah. Something you could use and look at and see how it reacts in space when you walk around it three-dimensionally. How would it catch the light? With this furniture piece, how I'd like to explore acrylic is to cut it up in similar shapes to how I do with paper, and overlay them, seeing how they could come together three-dimensionally. And with this, I'll be working with Joven from M Studio, who is really good in his plywood joints. I'd like to see how we can work together to create an interesting joint system, because I think it's very unconventional for plywood and acrylic to come together. Seeing that ply is a very raw and malleable material, and acrylic is very flat, very thin and fragile. So seeing how these two can contrast and create a three-dimensional furniture piece is something I'd like to explore in this. I think I've always been interested in taking my paper art a step further. So I'm drawn to acrylic because it's similar to paper, it's very thin and flat. And so when you put them together, I'm interested to see how the layers could form and interact with space, because when I work with paper, you see the layers in shadow, but with acrylic, maybe the light goes through and creates a whole different experience in space. Maybe when the sunlight filters through different colors and transparencies of acrylic, it would create a very fleeting kind of experience. I think Joven's specialty is plywood joints, which is very different from acrylic. But both of it, I think he works with plywood by doing these tongue and groove joints, and I have worked with acrylic in the same sense. And what happens is we cut a notch in both of these materials and join them at an angle, and it's the joint that creates the beauty in the object. So in his piece, I think he's expecting me to come out with this crazy weird shape with acrylic for him to insert into his piece. While for my piece, I think it's more of consulting him on how his plywood could disrupt and create a really interesting piece together with acrylic.
Hi, my name is Joven. So we are actually a bunch of college mates, speaking about we want to be one of the best in Penang, and we all went to our own path after graduating, and eventually our vision was still quite aligned. So starting out as a designer, I've been told that plywood is a material to be covered up by laminate, veneer, or to be spray paint on. Back in late 2019, we were given a task to come up with a pop-up store, a temporary pop-up store which will be hosting 2 local brands. And the idea is to assemble and disassemble easily without damaging much to the floor, walls and ceilings and stuff. And so we came up with an idea to assemble things without having nails and adhesive. And it was from there on that we started to look back into materials, and then we realized that plywood has all the quality that we need to come up with the whole idea. So plywood was first invented back in the 1860s, and it's formed by layers of veneers that are glued together, and it usually comes with the size of 8 feet by 4 feet, and it has various thickness to offer from 3 mm to 25 mm. And plywood is a high strength, high quality sheet material. Its resistance to shrinkage, cracking, and all sorts of stuff. So my process of designing furniture usually starts with having various forms and composition in my head. It could be inspired by random kind of stuff. It could be from a tree or from a building in Georgetown or a gesture. It literally could be anything. The main inspiration for this project is the steel, also known as neoplasticism. It was a Dutch art movement. So the main inspiration for the furniture would be the steel, also known as neoplasticism. The idea is to have different composition while you're viewing the furniture from different angles, from different perspectives, and it kind of formed this complex composition in a way. Yeah, that's the main goal for this furniture. The prototyping process is the interesting part, I would say. You actually get to see the furniture that you design from screen to an actual pieces, and being able to see everything coming down together into one pieces. And at this part, you'll be able to feel and to actually see your furniture in piece. So this is the part where you start refining whether if the color or the texture is right, or if it's the composition is right. This is the part where you start refining it. The basic joint that we usually use is mortise and tenon joint. So mortise and tenon joint usually have 2 components. One being the mortise hole and another one being the tenon tongue. So the idea is quite simple. It's sort of like assembling a Lego, and you have to cut out a precise mortise hole and also the tenon tongue that fits precisely, and you just knock it in. That's the simple joints that we are using. We use CNC a lot for constructing our furniture, mainly because of its precision, because it's machine cut, and it's also cost efficient if you're comparing it to carpenters. At first, I'll study the collaborator first. I'll study Ni's work first, and then know what she does, how's the characteristic like, and then I'll try to imagine if I am me, what would I do? And then I'll go on from there, keep the ball rolling.
Yeah, I think we talked a few times over Zoom, and I was also studying Joven's works, and he really does have a lot of, he's done a lot of ply joint systems, which I was trying to also incorporate into my stuff. So when we talked about it, I think what we noticed was aligned was how this joint system of interlocking could work both on acrylic and ply.
Yes.
It's quite like 90 degree. You have to slot them in like a half slot. What's the name for it? It's not like, it's a specific name. You know,
Kind of
right?
like tongue and groove system.
So what my interest was with acrylic was how transparent it looks, and it's a very thin material. So for me, it was a lot of like layering of the same material. And then we talked a lot about how can we incorporate these two materials which are so different. I think ply usually comes in like 18 mil thickness, and acrylic comes in like 2-3 mil thickness. So that was like a huge struggle we had because they are so different in character as well, right?
Yes.
I think wood is more like
rigid,
yeah, it's
and
more
sturdy,
rigid, and acrylic it just like bends as soon as
flimsy.
Yeah, it's super flimsy. So I think that was like one of the things we had to think about when we talked. For me, it's like the machinery.
The CNC?
It sort of dictates the way you treat the material as well. Like you use CNC, I use laser cutter. So what happens is like you're actually using this 2D material, you're putting it on the bed, and then you've got a router or laser cutter cutting it, right? So you're restricted by that process of it cutting it at a 90-degree angle. So when you do that, and also the joint system of is it called tongue and groove?
Yes.
Yeah, the tongue and groove joint system is also fairly 90 degrees. So you're limited by that. So I think you'll be able to see from our end product, both Joven's and I, is that they tend to interlock like that, right?
90 degree.
You can't do any more than that. You're restricted by that in a way because of the planarity of both materials, and the joint system we decided on is to sort of interlock only this way. I think that plywood is very interesting because you're actually layering a few layers together, and so with us, we were restricted by having a laser cutter, only being able to cut 2-3 mil thicknesses. So with acrylic, we even actually went to make our own custom plywood in a sense. We would actually use 3 mil thick plywood and acrylic, and we would sandwich them together. So in a way, it was like a custom plywood of my own. I'm not sure what's going to happen, whether it looks alright, but it was an interesting development, because I think that in a way we're creating our own material and pushing the boundaries based on those restrictions.
My takeaway from this would be, I would say it's the transparency of acrylic, the material, because I've always been working on furniture only with plywood or only wood. So acrylic definitely adds a layer of dimension and a depth to it, I'd say. So yeah, definitely going to explore more of acrylic in furniture.